Alright. Hey everybody. Welcome to 7 Days to Die. I am Shifty. X is silent. Anyways, today we will be going over a tutorial for 7 Days to Die. I'm basically going to do the first 7 days, one video at a time. Some hints and tricks. So there's a lot of videos out there on YouTube about 7 Days to Die. But most of them are on the PC side. There's really not a lot of streamers doing the console side. So I've had a few people ask me from here and there, like, hey, how do I do this? Hey, what do I do about this? Hey, how, just a bunch of hays. How do I do this? So what we're going to do today is we're going to go through and I'm going to give you the tips and stuff that I've learned throughout my gameplay of how to do this. The settings are going to be simple. We're going to go on scavenger. We're going to leave the zombies at very low. We're going to do a private match. Because I want this tutorial to go quick, I'm going to do the block durability down to 25%. Normally we're going to want to up higher. So let's go ahead and we'll just get going. So if you've never played the game before, it says press start. So you go ahead and hit press start. We wait a minute. Normally, continued game, if this is your first time, is grayed out. If it is not your first time, you can continue the last game you were working on. We're going to start a new game. So we're going to go down to new game. You have options here. You got all this other stuff. But right now, we're not going to go over all that. We're just going to go over new game. So let's start a new game. So right here you got a bunch of characters you can select, right? I had Charlotte selected last because in my last tutorial I was trying to work on before it started raining and I couldn't deal with the sound. Anyways, you got these characters you can select. Now, the male characters, they sound manly, don't get me wrong, but they do sound a lot like the zombies. So I have always opted for female. Just because I can hear the sound difference between male and female. So earlier today I was messing around with Charlotte. We're gonna go ahead and just go with Charlotte. So when you start new game, you have 4 options here. A local game is a game that's specifically set to your Xbox. You can either have a split screener or somebody with you in a LAN party. But that's pretty much all you can do with local game. None of your friends can join the local game unless they're like split screening with you. Survival multiplayer. Basically, it's certain stats that are set up. It's a multiplayer game, so people can join you. Random people could join you. Regular people could join you. Your friends could join you without your invites. Creative multiplayer gives you the ability, as it says right there, world on the fly. You can, in creative mode, you can fly. You have access to everything that's available in the game, so you don't have to worry about finding it or creating it or manufacturing it. You could just select it and have it. This is fun, but again, it is a multiplayer session. Anybody in the world could join your session. Now there's a bunch of controls and stuff you can get over with it, but in general, it's still a multiplayer game. Private game, it's a lot like local, but if you want your friends to join your private game, you specifically have to send them out the invite. Yeah, so with this tutorial we're gonna go do a private game. I don't really want anybody joining me. This is just specifically to help you guys out, try to get the first 7 days going, try to help people out who are new to the game. They have officially dropped the alpha version 17 on PC. Like I said, this is not for PC, this is for Xbox, but I just wanted to give that shout out. They dropped that even after Telltale Games have kind of went under So I'm really happy that they dropped it after they went under. That means the Xbox version is going to get an update, so I'll have to do a bunch of videos about that later. But for right now, let's just go ahead and go. So we're going to hit private game. So Navezgame is the default random. It's not random, but it's the default map. You can look online and get hundreds of maps of this. I have a map that I will provide in the videos that shows the map that is currently available for us on Xbox. I will provide a URL in the description. But if you don't want to do Navezgame, right? Let's say you're familiar with it and you just want to mess around. You can do a generated random map. There are not a lot of videos for the generated random maps. There's not a lot of images for the generated random maps. Me personally, I tried to do a few of them myself, and I ran into like 3 worlds that was like water world. Literally, water world. There was no land anywhere. It was water everywhere I went. Like, I swam for an hour trying to find land. Could not find land. So it just depends. I mean, if you want to have fun and create one, go ahead and do it. I've done it lots of times. They are fun. There are some big name generated maps, random generated maps you can look up. But for our sake and for this tutorial, we're just going to go with the standard Navezgame, if I'm saying that correctly. I have the map for this. I know where everything's at. This is the one we're going to go with. So underneath private game options, we have a lot of control of how we're going to do this. Most of the settings should be set to my last gameplay, which is pretty much similar to what we're going to do. But for right now, we are going to go through them all. Alright, so the standard options, simple, right? Difficulty settings, you can change your settings. You go all the way up to insane, which is like the hardest you can do. You can drop all the way down to the bottom, which is scavenger. That's what we're going to set this at. Zombies run. Well, by default, they walk during the day and they run at night. Now you can change that. You can make them so they never run, or you can change it so they run all the time. Alright. For this, because it's just a tutorial about how the game's going to play, we're going to leave it as default, so they walk during the day and run at night. Enemy aggression, so you have normal, right? They're not really that bad at normal. You know, they walk a little fast, but, you know, normally when on normal, like if I'm in sneak mode and I'm hiding behind like a wall, or I'm in like some like bathroom or someplace, I'm just hiding out, they won't see me through the wall. Feral, on the other hand, is a totally different thing. They'll know where you're at no matter where you are while you're standing. Now in sneak mode, I have experienced they tend to hit and miss. But for this, we are going to leave the standard option as normal. That way we don't have to worry about it. Normally the day length on a fresh game, I do believe is set for 14 hours. So that gives you 14 hours out of 24 hours of day length. I'm bumping this up all the way to max, which gives us 18 out of 24. So that gives us 6 hours a night. That just gives us more time to play during the day, which is great. So I always bump that up to max. I recommend you highly do that. So now that my standard default settings are set, let's go ahead and go to the modded options. Modded options, we have a little bit more control of what we're going to do. So underneath modded options, we have drop on death. So you have a backpack and a tool belt that you have. When you die, you can drop everything. That includes your tool belt and your backpack. You can drop just your tool belt, or you can drop just what's in your backpack, or you can delete all. Now delete all means when you die, that's it. Whatever you had, gone. Delete what's in your backpack, that saves what's on your tool belt. It's pretty cool. And if you delete your tool belt, you save whatever's in your backpack. So this is your personal choice. Me personally, I like to drop everything because it gives me a little bit of a challenge. If I die, I must have fucked up. So if I have to go get my backpack, I might as well be able to have to get everything. Normally, in my experience, except for one time, When I die, usually I don't have nothing on me, and I'm able to get my backpack back really quickly. Only one time I was not able to, and I was trying to dig up a treasure map, and unfortunately it was in the destructive zone, and there was dogs beyond belief. Like everywhere I turned, I ran into a dog. It was quite painful, and I died. I tried to go back. I died. I tried to go back, and I died. Eventually, I just gave up on it and went on my merry way. The dogs on this game are relentless, no matter what level you set them at. Anyways, off tangent. Let's get back on it. So when you quit the game, right? You leave the game. I have it set for nothing. We don't want to lose anything we got, so we want to be able to leave the game and come back in and be right where we are with everything we have. But if you do a multiplayer game and you got people coming and going, you know, you might want to change a few things, right? When somebody leaves, they delete everything they had in the inventory, or they delete their backpack, or they delete their tool belt. It all depends. But normally, when we're playing this game, we're not going to join a random game. We want to be able to join a game with our friends. So if we have our friends coming in and going, we don't want them to lose anything they got. So let's just leave it at nothing. So the enemy memory, this one's a good one. It's a real-time 30 seconds, or it's a real-time 45 seconds, or a whole minute, or a minute and a half, or 2 minutes. Me personally, I like to set it up for 30 seconds. Now, in my own trials and tribulations on this game on the Xbox, if you run by a zombie and you run fast enough and you get away from them, usually about 5 to 10 seconds, they'll stop chasing you because you're just that far away. They lose you. But if you're close to them, they'll follow you for 30 seconds. I have experienced this. Normally, the enemy respawn is not set for default, but for like the last 6 games, it's always set for default. I don't get it. We are going to do very low, which is at 50% of the zombies will respawn in the world. I have noticed the longer you play the game and the more you explore, the more zombies spawn in. It doesn't matter what your level is. That's just what it's going to happen. With that in mind, very low spawns in 50% of the zombies, low 75%, medium's 100%, high is 125%, and very high is 150%. If this is your first time playing the game, and you're like very confused about how the game plays, or you played the game and you're still struggling, turn it to disabled and start a new game. This gives you the ability to try to understand how the game works. Now, you can leave it disabled as long as you want, but me personally, so my own personal trials and tribulations of this game, when I was trying to learn this game and I learned about being able to turn the zombies off, I turned them off, but I only left them off for a few days. Maybe max, like maybe the first 7 days I left them off, just so I can get used to what I need to do in the game. How do I search things? How do I explore? How do I build? What to do correctly? What not to do correctly? But now that I've known the game for a while, I never leave it disabled. I'm going to leave it on very low just for this tutorial, because you're going to see me interacting with everything. Plus, zombies drop loot, and we need loot. Normally, I'm always struggling to find either food or water in the first 7 days. But the ideal goal for us is to find a base, clear out the base, and build a wall. That's what you want to do. Now, we'll get into that later, but for right now, let's just finish through these settings. So, block durability, normally, default, has this set to 100. Which is fine, it's not a big deal, but think about it. When you have to break down trees, or rocks, or ground, or safes, or doors, or whatever you got to break through, the higher the block durability, right, we can max it out to 200, the longer it's going to take you to break through it. This also includes the longer it will take a zombie to get through it. For the first few days that I do this, I'm going to leave the block durability down to 25%, because the faster I can get things done for you guys and we can get through the tutorial, the better. Now, you can start the game off at 25%, right, to do like the few days, and then you just quit out, go back to your settings and change it. So you can change it back up to 100% or 200%. Like, I recommend 200% on a horde night because it slows down the zombies a little bit better. You get a chance to fight them off, but eventually, even at 200%, the zombies will just tear through some defenses like crazy. So loot respawn, we have this for every 5 game days. This 5 game days respawn loot only requires if you're not around, right? So let's say, hypothetically, we find a place we want to hold up at, and it's near a town, but it's outside, right? Whatever we find in our building that we're going to make our permanent base, as long as we're running around that place, which we're going to be doing almost every day, none of the loot's going to respawn. But if we run to like a town or to another building or a YouTube place or a bookstore or gas station or whatever, and it's far away, usually it's about a couple grid marks, but you go hit it up, you go away, you wait 5 game days, let's say it's day 1, you hit this place up, you come back on day 6, all the loot's going to be back. But it will not be back at your permanent base station because we're there all the time. As it says, the number of days the loot will respawn if a player if there are no players around. So if we loot a town and we don't go back for like 5 or 6 days, most of the loot, like 99% of the loot, will be back. The only downside of this is there are traders. We have 5. We have 1 in the snow, 2 in the forest area, 1 in the destructive area, 1 in the desert. Oh, check that. 1 in the woods area, and then 1 in the burnout area. There is a trader in the snow area who has 14 torches. Now, torches are used to light up areas. You'll notice right off the bat in a few of my games here that I'll be doing, it gets real dark. Even with my setting changes to make everything brighter, it's still dark. And torches are used to light up the area, as well as candles. But for some reason, when you steal torches and light sources from the traders, it takes longer for the materials to come back. Out of my experience, it's usually about like every 15 game days I'll get it back. It's not a big deal. You can make torches and stuff on your own, so you don't need to worry about that, but it's just a little hint that I have noticed. Alright, so loot abundance. Normally when we start this is at 100%. We can bump it up. So it just means you get a higher chance of finding loot. Whether you need the loot or not, there's usually a higher chance of finding loot either on zombies, or in crates, or in cars, or in bags, or whatever you can loot up. A lot of people like to have these airdrops come in every 3 days because they're just so busy. But for the first 7 days, I'm just going to drop them every day. A note about that is when the airdrop comes in, I recommend you just go for it. Drop whatever you're doing and go for it, just in case, because now we do have it right here marked. So when the airdrops come in, we have it marked on the map. It'll show up on your mini map. It'll show up on your little bar at the top. But for some reason, let's say you die, or you lose internet, or you lose power, whatever the case may be, you get kicked out of the game. You come back in, this mark airdrop doesn't count if you leave the game. There's a way we can mark a map, and I'll show you how to do that later. But I recommend, if you're going to set this thing for every 24 hours and get some extra loot, usually you get some really good loot out of this too, go for it right away. Alright, so we're going to set the game 24-hour game cycle to 120 minutes. That's equivalent to 2 hours. You could change it. I think normally when we start this, it's every hour equals 1 game day. But there's literally a lot we have to do in the first 7 days to get ourselves set up. So I just set it for every 2 hours. That gives us plenty of time, because the game days where the zombies don't actually run start from 4 a.m. to, I do believe it's 10 p.m. which then leaves us 6 hours. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, leaves us 6 hours at night. That's because we set our day length to 18 hours. Now, if we switch it to 16 or 14, you know, that may adjust. Whether or not I find the mini bike schematic in the first 7 days in this introduction, if it does, we'll have an icon on the map when we build it. To build it, there's a lot of stuff I got to get done. Hopefully I can get most of it done. If I don't get it done in the first 7 days, I will post another video later on how to do it. And because I want this to be official, I'm having no cheats. I'm turning the cheats off. So these are the settings I'm going to run. I'll make sure I run these exact same settings for every day for the first 7 days. The only thing that may get changed is the block durability. Everything else is going to stay the same. So now that we're all set, ready to rock and roll, right, we can go ahead and start a game. Alright, so right here, that was just the tutorial of the settings. Please leave a like if you haven't left a like, and please subscribe if you haven't subscribed to my channel. So the next video, we'll start day 1.
Oh yeah, you gotta get Swifty.